After my wedding, I got pregnant almost immediately, but I never got to hold my baby. At first, they told me it was just a miscarriage, but then it happened again and again until one night I saw a woman standing inside a river holding my child, and she said something I will never forget. Give me the baby. That was the moment I realized I wasn't losing my children, someone was taking them. The first time it happened, they said it was one of those things. You know how elders in the village like to talk, lowering their voices as if grief itself can hear them and come back for more. They said not every pregnancy becomes a child. They said sometimes the body rejects what it cannot keep. They said I should not think too much about it. But the way my mother looked at me that day told a different story. I had been married for barely a year when I got pregnant for the first time. It was a quiet kind of joy, the type you carry gently in your chest because you are afraid that if you celebrate too loudly, something will hear you and take it away. My husband, Emeka, was over the moon. He started making plans immediately, talking about names, schools, even the color of the baby's room in our small house at the edge of the compound. Everything felt right. Everything felt blessed until it didn't. It started with a dream. I saw myself standing in the middle of a river I did not recognize. The water calm but too still, like it was waiting. In my arms, I held a baby wrapped in white cloth. I could not see the child's face, but I knew somehow that it was mine. I remember smiling, trying to lift the cloth just a little, just enough to see. That was when the woman appeared. She didn't walk into the river. She was just there. One moment I was alone. The next, she stood a few steps away from me. Her feet inside the water but not sinking. Her wrapper was tied high around her chest, old and faded, and her eyes, God, her eyes looked like they had been waiting for me. Give me the child, she said. Her voice was not loud, but it carried weight, like something that had been spoken many times before. I shook my head immediately, clutching the baby tighter. No, she smiled then, not kindly, not angrily, just knowingly. It is not yours to keep. I woke up with a scream lodged in my throat, my hands gripping my stomach as if I could protect what was inside me by force. That same week, I lost the pregnancy. They told me it was stress. They told me it happens. They told me to pray, and I did. I prayed until my voice became hoarse and my knees ached from hitting the floor every night. I told God I didn't need anything else, just this one thing, just a child. Months passed before I got pregnant again. This time, I was careful. I didn't tell anyone until my belly began to show. I avoided certain foods, drank all the herbs the older women insisted on, and stayed away from anything that even looked like bad luck. My mother came to stay with me, watching over me like a hawk, as if her presence alone could shield me from whatever had taken the first one. For a while, it worked, or at least it seemed like it did. Then the dreams came back. The same river, the same still water, and the same woman. This time, she was closer. Give me the child, she said again, her voice softer now, almost patient. I could feel fear rising in my chest, thick and suffocating. Why? I managed to ask. She tilted her head, studying me like I was the one who didn't understand something obvious. It has always been this way. Before I could respond, the water began to ripple. Not from wind, not from movement, from beneath. I looked down and saw shadows moving under the surface, circling my legs. I tried to run, but my feet wouldn't move. Give me the child, she repeated. I woke up crying. 2 days later, I started bleeding. That was when the whispers began. You know how news travels in a compound. Quiet at first, like smoke slipping through cracks. Then suddenly everywhere, impossible to ignore. Women would stop talking when I passed. Old men would shake their heads like they knew something they couldn't say out loud. It was my aunt who finally said it. There is something not right, she muttered one evening as she helped my mother pound yam in the backyard. This is not ordinary. I pretended not to hear, but my ears stretched towards her voice anyway. My mother sighed. Don't start. I am not starting anything, my aunt replied, lowering her voice. Two pregnancies, same pattern, dreams, loss. You think that is coincidence? My hands tightened around the edge of the doorway. What are you trying to say? My mother asked. There was a pause, the kind that carries weight. Ask about his family. My heart skipped. Whose family? Emeka's. I didn't want to believe it. My husband was a good man, gentle, patient, the kind of man people prayed for. From the day I entered his house, he treated me with a softness I had never known before. How could something be wrong with him, with his family? But doubt is a stubborn thing. Once it enters your mind, it does not leave quietly. That night, as we lay in bed, I turned to him. Emeka, I said softly. "Hmm?" He responded, half asleep. Has anything like this ever happened before? In your family? He didn't answer immediately. At first, I thought he hadn't heard me, but then he shifted slightly, his back turning towards me. No, he said finally. Why would you ask that? His tone was light, too light. I don't know, I said, even though I did. He didn't say anything else after that, but I didn't sleep. Because for the first time since all of this began, something felt hidden. The third time I got pregnant, I didn't tell anyone. Not my mother, not my friends, not even Emeka. I needed to be sure. But the dreams didn't wait. This time, when I found myself standing in that river again, I already knew what was coming. The air felt heavier, like a storm was about to break, and my arms clutched the baby tighter before she even appeared. When she did, she was no longer smiling. Her face was calm, but there was something else now, something darker. You are delaying what cannot be stopped, she said. My heart pounded in my ears. Leave me alone. She stepped closer, the water not moving around her feet. You were warned. I don't know you, I shouted. This child is mine. Her eyes hardened. No, she said slowly. It belongs to us. The water around me began to churn violently, the shadows beneath rising, stretching, reaching. I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat, and for the first time, I felt pain, a sharp, twisting pain in my stomach. I froze, because deep down, I already knew what it meant. But this time, as I pressed my trembling hands against my belly, one thought echoed louder than the rest. What if it wasn't just happening to me? What if something was taking them? The pain didn't last long. That was the strange part. It came suddenly, sharp enough to steal the air from my lungs, and then just as quickly it faded, leaving behind a hollow feeling that sat deep inside my stomach, like something had been taken, not lost. I lay there on the bed, staring at the ceiling, my hands still pressing against my belly, waiting, praying, begging silently for the bleeding not to come. But morning has a way of exposing truths the night tries to hide. By the time I stood up, I already knew. This time, I didn't cry. Not immediately. It wasn't strength. It wasn't acceptance. It was something else. Something colder. Suspicion. Because 3 times was no longer coincidence. 3 times was a pattern. And patterns, as my father used to say, always have a source. I cleaned myself up quietly and went about my morning like nothing had happened. I greeted the maker, served his food, even managed a small smile when he asked if I had slept well. I'm fine, I said. And for the first time since our marriage, I lied without guilt. I waited until he left the house. Then I started searching. At first, I didn't even know what I was looking for. I just knew I needed to understand what kind of family I had married into. The house suddenly felt different, like it was holding secrets in its walls, watching me move from room to room. I started with the bedroom, nothing. Then the sitting room, still nothing. It was when I entered the small storage room at the back of the house that something shifted. The air there felt heavier, not dirty, not abandoned, just still, like a place that had not been disturbed in a long time. There were old boxes stacked against the wall, a wooden cabinet with one loose door, and in the corner, a small trunk my eyes had never seen before. My heart began to beat faster. I don't know why that trunk called to me. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was something deeper. I knelt in front of it and hesitated. For a moment, I almost stood up and left. Because there is a kind of fear that doesn't shout. It whispers, telling you that once you see something, you cannot unsee it. But I had already lost too much. So I opened it. Inside were old wrappers, neatly folded, and beneath them a bundle of clothes tied tightly with a red string. My fingers trembled as I reached for it. The moment I untied the knot, a faint smell hit me. Not rotten, not pleasant either, just strange. I opened the cloth slowly and froze. Small figurines, three of them. They were molded from something dark, almost like clay, but smoother. Each one was shaped like a baby, tiny, fragile, disturbingly detailed. Their eyes were carved open, their mouths slightly parted as if caught mid cry. My throat went dry. Without thinking, I counted them again. One, two, three. My stomach twisted. Three. Deep down, I already knew what I was looking at. Those weren't just figurines, they were mine, my babies, and somehow they were hidden inside my husband's house. I didn't understand how yet, but I knew one thing: this wasn't a coincidence. Something or someone was taking my children, and I was going to find out who.